How's it going, everyone? My name is 𝗙𝗿𝗹𝗲𝗲 and I am a business coach for authors over at paperbackingdom.com, and I am here today to teach you how you can build your email list. Now, I just want to preface before we even get into the content of this video that you don't necessarily have to have an email list, but you'll see a lot of authors who do this, and I want to explain why so you can have that understanding of the strategies and tactics you choose to implement in your marketing strategy before you even go implementing them, and especially if you do it half-assed and then go, why isn't this working? Like, I want you to have the full understanding. So the very first thing I want to say is that pretty much everything that gets thrown around online, you may have heard like, oh, you know, you've got to be on Instagram, you've got to be on Facebook, you've got to have an email list, you've got to like shop 3 times a day, you've got to do X, Y, Z. You'll probably hear all this stuff all the time, right? Especially if you're new to authorship, you're trying to figure out how to make book sales, you're trying to figure out how to grow your platform and get established. And there's a lot of advice out there. A lot of it also conflicts, right? And so you're probably hearing all this stuff and going, okay, well, how come I've got to do like all these things? That's super exhausting. That's a lot of work. You don't necessarily have to do all the things, right? The thing is that they're all strategies, right? You could be on social media, and primarily you could just be on one platform, right? You could be on Instagram and do organic posts there that you don't pay for. And you could do that a certain amount of times, you know, a week, and that could work. Or you could do paid advertising and you could just focus on that, and that could work. You could build an email list and that could work, right? Everything works when you work it, when you actually invest the time and energy into working it properly, and you don't like start and stop with your strategy and give up after a certain amount of time. You've got to like work it properly, but everything works, right? So it's not really that you have to do all the things. It's about finding one thing that works really well for you that you can work on repeat. And the key is finding that thing that works for you, because a lot of people will find it very exhausting to keep up with posting all the time to social media, but they will find it really easy to run ads. Or some people won't have a budget for ads, but they're happy to invest the time on social media, right? So like all these things really is dependent on what's going to work for you based on your circumstances and where you are in your author journey. Now, that's where we come back to email lists, right? You don't necessarily have to have one to make book sales to get results, and it's not worth investing all your time and energy into building one if you're not going to take it seriously, if you're not going to integrate it properly as part of your strategy, right? And like just think, another thing I want to preface is you're not missing anything if you don't do all the things. Again, it's just about finding the one thing that works well. But here's why people do build an email list, right? So maybe you've heard this one before, it's been circulating for a few years at this point, but you don't own your following on social media. So I'm recording this in 2022. In 2021, there was that day where Facebook shut down. I think all the platforms shut down actually. Can't remember how many. Most of them did except for Twitter, I think. So everything was gone for like a good, I don't know, I think it was like a whole day or something. And that's a perfect example that if you only have a following on Instagram, and that's the only place where readers know to find you, it's the only place you're building relationships with them, it's the only place you're building relationships with reviewers, if that is gone and it doesn't come back, you have to start again, right? You have to start from scratch, and that's not necessarily a great feeling. Now, that is one big reason why people build an email list, because you actually own your email list. You can export it regularly. You can keep a copy of all those contacts. So if you have to move platforms, if you have to change what you're doing, if you have to go to manually emailing people, you can still keep in contact with your readers, and you can still be building those relationships, and you can still be telling them that you have a book out available to purchase, right? So that's a really valuable thing when you look at the fact that you don't own your social media platform, and you can potentially lose them for good. You could get locked out of your account, it could get hacked, like all those things could happen, right? So that's one really big reason. But the other reason is that it gives you that direct contact with your readers. So I want to talk a bit about how the algorithm works on social media, right? So here's the thing, and I have something to give you an example with. So let's just say I have 5 pens here. I want to try and like spread them out 1 second as best I can. Okay, so let's say you have these, let's say you're posting once a day, 5 days a week. These are your posts, right? So they're the posts that's going out. Let's say like that out of everyone who follows you, they're only seeing 2 of these posts a week, right? Because the algorithm is not showing the other 3 to them specifically, right? So that's a problem, and that's very true. That's what the algorithm does, right? Depending on circumstances, depending on you know, how often they're checking into social media, depending on like lots of different factors, not just the algorithm, they're not going to see every post you put out, which means not every post is going to count. Now, you still want to be showing up as regularly as possible because every post will move your audience forward towards making a sale, but it's going to be at a different pace for everyone in your audience, right? Because everyone's going to see it at different times. And the thing about impressions, I've talked about impression marketing in a previous video, but the thing about impressions is that someone needs to see you or your book or both at least 7 to 8 times before they even think about buying it. Not before they buy it, before they think about buying it. Because at that point, they don't have any product awareness. It's only after they've seen it that amount of times that they start to make the connection and go, I've seen this person before. They've been talked about a lot. They have a book coming out and it's getting a lot of hype. I should really check that out. And that's when they start to think about buying the book. That's when they'll start to pay attention to your posts, right? So if they were to see every post you ever put out on social media, and it's going to take 7 to 8 impressions, you could probably make the sale in 2 to 3 weeks, right? But that's not the case. If they're only seeing 2 posts you put out per week, it's probably going to take more like probably 4 to like maybe 6 to 12 weeks, right? Before they actually make a purchase from you, right? And so that's a big difference. That's a lot longer in your sales process that you have to keep showing up and that you have to keep building those impressions with them. And so when you have an email list, it takes the algorithm out. It means that instead of you having to assume that people are going to see your post and having that rely on all these circumstances and variables, and maybe they see your post and maybe they don't, and you don't know how far along the sales process they are, you can be in their inbox every day or every second day or every week directly in there for them to open an email and connect with you without having to go through everyone else's post, without having to beat the algorithm, without having to time it properly. It's always going to be in their inbox. And if they're engaged and they're opening your emails, every email is going to count, right? And so that is why having an email list can be so valuable. And it's why a lot of people do it. So the question becomes, how do you get people onto your email list, right? How do you actually build that? So here's the thing. A lot of authors, or I see a lot of authors do this, where they're working with free websites, and that's fine. Like, you know, I do recommend having a website when you're starting out. I don't necessarily think you have to pay for one unless you want to do fancy stuff with it. But if you're working with a free website, you may see that you have limited options. So maybe the only way you can get people on your email list is to have a little subscribe here for updates thing on your website. Let me know if that's you down below. But otherwise, a lot of people just do that because they see other people doing that and they think that must work, right? Here's the thing. I would literally never want to sign up for anyone's email list because I get enough emails as it is. I do not need more emails in my inbox. The only reason I'm signing up for someone's email list is because I get something out of it. I have a reason to sign up. I have something that you're going to give me as a result. I need that for me to give you my information and have more emails in my inbox because otherwise I ain't doing it, right? And a lot of authors will think, okay, well, I'll give them updates on my book. The thing is, we don't want updates on your book. Like, a reader really doesn't want updates on your book unless they're already interested in your book. They're already super hyped. And really, what are they going to get through emails from you that they're not going to get on your social media? A lot of them are not thinking in terms of like, oh, I'm going to miss post because of the algorithm. They're thinking in like, oh, I can just check their social media whenever I want, and then I'll be all caught up. And then they don't think to do that, right? You've got to be the one who really focuses on getting in front of them with the right content. So you have to give them a better reason to want to sign up so that they do get those updates. That's definitely part of what you're doing there, but they're not necessarily going to sign up for updates. That's not what they want, right? Because they don't see any value in that. They need something else that they would see value in, right? So this is why a lot of authors who are doing this right will offer something like a novella, like a free book. I'm going to have a conversation about that at the end, but like, you know, a free book or a free chapter or something of value. Maybe they sign up and they get the first look at a second book that's coming out, or they get a limited short story, or they get entered into some kind of giveaway for a book that's coming out, or they get information about an exclusive party that's only happening and the details are only available through the email list, like something like that. That just gets them on the list, and then you can put them into a regular list that they get regular information from you as a result of being on your list, right? So that is how you can do it, right? Is you give them something that they actually want, something that they will get value out of, something that makes it worthwhile for them to hand over their info. Now, I want to talk about giving away a free book real quick because a lot of people do this. I think it's a great strategy, like definitely for sure. But I also would be very hesitant to give away things for free that you've put a lot of time and energy into that could sell, right? Because at the end of the day, you are an author, you're writing stories, and I don't think people realize how valuable that is. I feel like we saw a glimpse of that in COVID when it all began, the pandemic, that suddenly there was like this demand for content and for entertainment when we were all stuck at home, right? And people were like, I just need more, and there was so much demand and you couldn't keep up with it, because a lot of content creators, a lot of people who create stuff and entertainment, they do it for free, right? Or they're not getting paid very much for it. So it started to dawn on people how valuable it actually is, how much we rely on it to get through our day-to-day life, and how underpaid the industry actually is, right? And so you're already in an industry that doesn't get valued for entertainment and storytelling when it should, when I truly believe it should. And you're already, you know, only making so much per book sale as a result of how book sales work. If you're charging $14 for a paperback, the most you can probably make off of that is $5. And you have to price it right. You have to have the right length of your book to be able to get all those factors to work together properly. So you're already making a very small amount from your books, and like, you know, you're not able to charge a lot for it. So if you are trying to build up credibility as an author, you're trying to get seen as someone who does this for a living, as someone who is established, who's someone who has books worth buying, someone like Sarah J. Maas or like Stephen King or like Holly Black, like any big author who is seen to do this for a living, to do this where they have a big book launch and a book comes out and they get paid for it at full price. If you want to be seen like that, you have to play at that level. And so I would be very hesitant to be giving away books for free when you should be getting paid for those books, because that is what anyone who expects a big best-selling author, that's what they would expect of them, right? So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying it can be a great strategy if you've got an ebook lying around or you've got something that makes sense. I would just be hesitant how often you do it, and I wouldn't exert yourself to come up with a whole second story just to get people on your email list, you know, for every launch you ever do. I would have one book that you literally just dedicate for building your email list. If you want to do that, don't do any more, or you do it for a limited time and then you make it something that's paid, because again, that's just so valuable. Like you need to be seen that way, and you need to make decisions that help you get seen that way if you're going to actually make this whole thing work, right? And so that's just a bit of mindset there that I wanted to preface, because I know it's really tempting to go, I have this book lying around, I'm just going to make it free, or to go, I'm just going to write a whole book to get people on my email list, when that may not necessarily be the best strategy for you in the long run, right? So I just wanted to preface that. But yeah, that's basically it. So like the whole point is that you need to be building an email list with something that's going to bring value to your readers. And that really comes from knowing your readers. That comes from knowing what they want to be receiving from you, what their actual interests are. Don't guess at this, right? Go out there and actually ask them, because if you are like, oh, you know, they should want a free book from me, they should want a free chapter, why wouldn't they want that? And you put it out there and they don't sign up, you haven't actually asked them what they want from you. You're not going to know that for sure, and you're not going to actually have this convert until you go out and ask them. So give them some options. Just say, hey, I'd like to give you guys a free gift. I'm thinking about a couple of ideas. What would you prefer to receive for free? And then just give them some ideas. And see which ones gets the most votes, and that should be the one you want to run with. So you can do that through Instagram stories, you can do it for a poll, you can email out people that maybe you have contacts with that aren't on an email list yet, you can put it in a feed post, do whatever you need to do to get that information, but definitely get information first before you go building out this whole funnel that may or may not convert, right? So that's all I wanted to say about that. I hope this was helpful. I hope this gave you some insights on what to do. If you found this helpful and you'd like to know more about what I do, or you'd like to get some more free resources around this topic, I have some free resources linked in the description below that you can sign up for and get some help with. By the way, if you study what I'm doing here, you'll see I'm doing exactly what I told you to do. If there's something you want and it's in the description box and you go, yes, I want that, you're going to go on my email list, and then I'm going to email you about stuff. So this works exactly the same way. If anything, you should sign up just to study it and see how it works. But that's basically all I wanted to share, and I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I will chat to you guys soon. Okay, bye.